Imagine this, one lens that can do it all. One lens to get your wide establishing shots, one lens to get your tight detailed shots. One with a wide aperture so it has a blurry background that we're all addicted to. And optical stabilization so it doesn't look insanely shaky when it's handheld.
What the hell?
There we go. And let's get that, oh hang on, I'm not a YouTuber yet. Well, here we go. This is the lens that I'm talking about here, the Tamron 24-70 2.8. But let me explain to you kind of my philosophy of why I only got one lens to work with on all my videos. Oh, and the lens that I'm filming on right now is the 17-55 2.8 EFS lens that I would use on my crop sensor. Started off on the 80D, so I broke it back out to film this video for you guys. So the reason that I only use one lens on all my shoots is because I want to use one good lens instead of a handful of not so good lenses. Because like I said, you could get a good standard zoom lens for like $1,000, $1,500 depending on what kind you want. These third-party lenses aren't that bad at all. They've actually gotten way better over the years. But yeah, that little price range right in there, that $1,000 to $1,500, that's how much it costs to get a good lens nowadays. And so when you're building out your whole kit lineup, you can have like, you know, a wide angle prime lens, you can have a 50mm or a 85mm prime lens, and then like a 70-200 or something like that. There's so many options. But anytime you start talking about having a couple pro level lenses, that gets really expensive. I'm sure you know as good as I do that as videographers, we gotta buy so much gear just to make videos at all. Like you gotta buy microphones, lighting, tripods, gimbals, so much stuff. Don't get me wrong, I would love to buy all these cool new lenses and the want is there, I really want them. And will I get them eventually? Probably, yeah, but what I need instead right now is a good microphone, a good tripod, good lighting, and a good gimbal so that I can actually create whole videos. Because when you have all the other supporting gear to go along with your camera package, that's when you can actually create some really dynamic pieces and stuff, and you can be versatile and create any kind of videos that you want. I mean, anyone can have a single camera with a couple lenses, but if you don't have all the other gear, you can't make as many things as me. And I can tell you right now, whenever I shoot for my clients, I only use this one lens. They never ask, oh, do you have more lenses? How many lenses do you have? They don't care. All they care about is the awesome videos that come out at the end. So basically what I'm saying is, if I want to buy more lenses, I have to know that it's for me. It's because I want them. It's like a cool new pair of shoes, basically. Because as a videographer, filmmaker, I can make just as much money with just this one lens. Because it can do 99.9% of all the shots that I need on any client shoot, like ever, even all these YouTube videos. And for those special circumstances where I kind of need a special shot or a client has a really big budget, that's when I can go and rent some lenses and have them shipped in for that specific project. So what you need to know when you're building out your kit and you're buying all the gear that you need to make videos is that a standard zoom lens with a wide aperture is a very good idea. And for whatever camera that you do use, there's a standard zoom lens for you. It just depends on whatever sensor size you have and if it crops in at all for any of the modes. That's why I go for a 24-70mm because I use the Canon EOS R. It's a full frame camera. But when I was filming on my Canon 80D back when I was starting out and I couldn't afford nice stuff like this, I was using this 17-55mm because it's a crop sensor, so it needed to be a little wider. But essentially, it's still that same range, that 24-70, 17-55. There are even good options for you guys out there that shoot on micro four thirds. But for full frame Canon cameras, would I recommend this one specifically? Yes. The RF 24-70mm from Canon, like the native lens, is double the price of this. And I'm sure it's much nicer, a lot sharper, it probably even has better autofocus. But in terms of good enough, this is way beyond good enough. It's just kind of the best bang for your buck, you know? I'd rather spend more money on my other gear instead of one really, really nice lens that is just marginally better than this one. So when you're looking for your own standard zoom lens, try to get one that has that 2.8 aperture so that it's wide enough to get, that shallow depth of field and it's good enough in low light. Trust me, I've had some events at night I've had to shoot with this, and if I had to go with an f4 or something higher than that, it just would not have come out as good. You should also look for something that has good build quality and weather sealing. This one right here has a rubber gasket around the mount, so it's all weather sealed. It's also got weather sealing all up in the zoom mechanism over here so that you can still shoot when it starts to kind of sprinkle outside a little bit. A lot of the cheaper lenses don't have that, and it could really mess up your camera or your lens if it starts to get a little wet. Like the 17-55 lens that I have on right now, it doesn't have that rubber gasket, so I can't really use it if the weather gets really bad outside. While we're talking about the build quality of this zoom lens, it's probably worth talking about this zoom ring. It is like the smoothest and most sturdy zoom lens that I've ever had. Like, listen to those hard stops on either side. That's awesome. It's also got this little locking switch right here that'll keep it at 24 millimeters and it can't zoom in. I've never had to use it because the lens isn't very loose at all. And I wish it kind of worked at the other focal lengths. That might be, useful. But like I said, the zoom ring is really good. Also try to look for one that has good optical stabilization. This one has what they call vibration control, but it's the same thing. And I'm really impressed with how good this one works. So just do a little research on whichever one that you're getting. Because if you don't have optical stabilization and the camera body that you're shooting on, if that doesn't have in-body stabilization like the A7 III or something, then any of your handheld shots are gonna look really wonky. Because without that stabilization, you're basically just limited to gimbals, dollies, and tripod shots. You should also make sure whichever lens you get has good autofocus. I was really happy with the autofocus that came with this lens right here, especially since it's a third-party lens. Third-party lenses are notoriously not as good as native lenses for stuff like autofocus, but Canon's dual pixel autofocus along with this lens really gets the job done pretty well. Even though that I'm adapting it from the RF mount to the EF mount on my Canon EOS R. It's honestly a miracle how well that works. And also make sure you get the proper zoom range. Like I said, for my full frame EOS R over here, 24-70 is the perfect zoom range. But for the APS-C crop sensor on my Canon 80D, 17-55 was the perfect range on that. And if you have micro four thirds, honestly, I don't know, do some research. I don't use those cameras at all. And one other thing that I'm looking for in a lens is that the autofocus can't be very loud. Because when I'm out in the field, like doing some run and gun stuff, I'll have my microphone, what right now is on a mic stand pointing really close at my face here. I'll have it on top of the camera so that I can get some really good audio in the scene, But when I'm doing that, I can't have the autofocus of the lens screwing up all that audio that I'm getting. So here, check it out. I'll point the mic kind of closer to the lens over here and show you what I mean. Alright, that was how loud the Canon 17-55 2.8 lens was. So now let's try out, where'd it go? Oh, that Tamron lens. There we go. Wow, I love this lens so much better. So for both of those lenses there, the microphone was literally pointed right at the lens, at the barrel of it, so you could hear all the autofocusing. But you could hear that the Tamron was way quieter than the Canon 17-55. And before I had the 17-55 lens, I had this one Sigma lens that was, just like the 17-55. It was literally the same thing, but a third-party version. And it was the loudest autofocusing lens that I've ever had. And ever since then, I was kind of scarred, so I wanted autofocusing lenses that aren't that loud. But yeah, dude, get yourself a good lens so you can get some awesome shots and save some money without getting a bunch of really good lenses, And it's way better than getting a bunch of okay lenses. I would definitely rather have one really good one. So go figure it out, hook it up, and start making some really cool stuff. I hope you guys learned a little something on here. I hope I saved you guys a little money. And let me know in the comments which lens you're eyeing up. I'll try to give you my little 2 cents on it in there. Well, that's it for this one, guys. Feel free to click on some of these other videos in here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.